beginning of my video. Boom!
Welcome back to Boring Reviews.
Boring land.
Oh, just kidding.
Blasphemer!
Hello,
right.
Boring Review Nation!
Kind of pointless.
We know all things. It was over in a snap.
We really want it. Alright, we'll be nice.
Only you can be a Patreon.
Oh my gosh!
It's crazy.
You don't need to follow the show to be hyped.
Hello, Boring Review Nation! Gabe!
And Nick, and that's right. We did not forget about Boring Reviews. We're still here.
Not at all, not at all. We love you guys. Oh man, we're back and we are here to finally, we've gotten there. Episode 9, Paatal Lok. Yes, we're gonna review episode 9, Paatal Lok. Whew, I gotta tell you, first of all, I'm feeling a little good about myself. All right. I this must be what Nick feels like all the time, because he's usually right, and I was right. So I mean, my matter of fact, let me stretch my hat out a little bit because my head's getting a little bit big. You know, this would be what Nick feels like under a daily basis. You know what I mean? But did I not call it from the very beginning that this thing was not right? It was a setup. And I know everybody in the comments is gonna be like, Gabe, really? Come on, that was so transparent. Listen, I'll take the victories where I can get it. All right, I'll take the victories where I can get it. Now, was I correct about how it was a setup? No. The whole time I thought Sanjeev was involved because he was just being too cavalier with this assassination attempt on him. And honestly, we find out later on in the episode that there was an assassination attempt about him, and he's almost disappointed. And then your boy Chaudhry calls him out, and he said, "You know what? That's funny. Most people would be happy to learn that their life wasn't in danger." Like this guy. I guess for some people, your career is your life. And I guess I just missed that part of it where it wasn't that he set it up, but to him, this was a second life at his career. Without this career, in other words, he doesn't matter. He's irrelevant. There is no life. I still wouldn't sacrifice my life for my career. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. That's just real. But I was wrong about that. But I was right about that. This thing was was fishy. I was right that the police or the what's it called? The investigative unit?
CBI.
The CBI, they were behind it. They were crooked. They knew what was going on. Oh, so much to talk about this episode. Nick, I'll let you start because if not, you won't get a word in. You know how it is, bro. You know how it is.
You're right. There's so much to talk about. I will start off by saying that I enjoyed this episode, but I do agree with the several that made the comment either through email or in the comment section that it was somewhat anticlimactic, and not because I feel like it was a letdown, not because I feel like it was a cheap finale. I don't think that at all. I don't think it was a lazy resolution, but it for a series that was just full throttle the entire series, to have this be more of a poetic, more of a slower kind of a smooth landing. I was a little taken aback by that. I did like how each character got some kind of send-off in one way, shape, or form to some certain degree for the most part. There's so much to talk about. So you mentioned about how it was a cover-up. It stems back to the politician Bajpayee and how he had a Master G in his pocket. Master G had Tyagi in his pocket. And with those three all in each other's pockets, with Bajpayee, leading the way, life was good. As soon as Master G had some, pushback, then Bajpayee didn't like that. And we find out that Master G ends up dying. And I can't remember.
It wasn't Master G. It's the Lola.
That's what they call Master G. So Master G is just like that honorary title for someone who's like your boss, like your guru, like your person you go to. And I always mess up Dongwela so many times, so I'm just calling him Master G. Not the PE teacher, Master G, but the guy who was running the show. I can't remember, Gabe, if he died just from natural causes or if he died. Okay, so it was natural causes. So it wasn't like Bajpayee went after him. No. But once he died of natural causes, his men kept that under wraps. They didn't even tell Tyagi. They kept all that under wraps because they were they were trying to get into the political arena themselves. They were trying to, and I can only imagine it's one of those situations where, we're feeding out of this guy's hands. Why don't we just feed out of our own hands, for crying out loud? And so the one guy, his name escapes me. It's not the right-hand man of Dongwela, but it was the guy who's basically wanting to be that politician. He's willing to kill anyone that knows that Dongwela is dead because it's going to ruin his game. He just wants to get a step further. So basically, we have this episode. Chaudhary is taken by these two guys who are working for Dongwela's men, and who's really working for this guy who wants to be a politician.
It's Bajpayee, right? Isn't it?
Bajpayee?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with that.
I thought he's the one that wants to be the politician.
You were right earlier, so I'm going to keep trusting you. So they're going after Chaudhary because Chaudhary, he's learned too much information. And it was a cool cat and mouse situation where they're in the car, and then Chaudhary, he looks for his one advantage. How can I get out of this? And he sees the car is a little close on the other side. One guy's chirping hey, what's wrong with you? Get out the road. And his loss of concentration, you got Chaudhary pulling the wheel, putting his seatbelt as soon as possible. They flip over. He gets out. He's all banged up. They get out as well, even though they didn't have seatbelts on. They're chasing him at the carnival. I thought all that was really, really cool. He was trying everything he could. They didn't fall for his little disguise. And eventually they get him. They take him back to Bajpayee. I probably screwed that name up. They take him back. They're digging his grave. They're kind of laughing about it. And then for me, it was like a left turn. I didn't think Chaudhary's going to die, but I'm like, whoa, this guy just shot the other guy with the curls, who's supposed to be the other guy's brother, who I didn't see no resemblance whatsoever. Right. They shoot him. He's digging his own grave. And then Chaudhary's able to hear that Dongwela is dead. He's able to hear about what's going on. And then he even asks, how come Tyagi didn't go after Sanjeev? He gets all this information, and then he's able to go. Now, I'm going to go right to it because I'm honestly confused, and that's going to open me up to being a moron. I don't care.
No.
Did he let him go because he knew by giving him that pendant, by letting him know, basically tell Tyagi that he's dead by giving this pendant, that Tyagi was going to do what he did to himself later on? Is that why? So he can clear up those loose ends, and he wasn't afraid of the news getting out there at this point?
This guy's a puppet master, bro. He's a puppet master. Now, just to correct you a little bit and to go back, man, this I can't believe. Hold on, let me loosen up my head a little bit more. I never have this feeling. So, first and foremost, you were talking about, and in the car, I really like that conversation that the two brothers were having with him, with Chaudhary, right? They tell Chaudhary's like, listen, I'm New Delhi police, all this or whatever. He said, do you know police have to spill out forms for every bullet they fire, even if it's an accidental one? There's no rules like that here, bro. They're letting them know we're gonna bury you, bro. And he tries to get away. They capture him. So I like that aspect of it, that they made it realistic. Chaudhary's not a superhero. He's a regular man, and they were able, when you have that many people against you, to get you. The reason Chaudhary was dead, basically, but when Chaudhary goes to Bajpayee and starts talking, what saves his life first and foremost is that he tells him, I know something. And he says, yeah, what do you know? I know that Master G, or Dongwela, is dead. And then he's like, oh, only 3 people are supposed to know that, him and obviously the 2 henchmen, the 2 brothers or whatnot, which is why he executes the other brother. And he says, who else knows that? And he goes, Bajpayee, which is him. So he's basically letting them know, I got some leverage over you. You don't know who I've told this to. So I think that's also why he left him alive or whatnot, because I can come after you at any time. But what saved his life is the fact that he had already figured out that Dongwela was dead, and he figured out that they were using Tyagi as a tool, basically, try to kill this reporter, get him killed. That was his plan. We killed a reporter, then Tyagi dies. It's going to be a big story in the news because once again, it's a news reporter, which is, an important position, it is going to be killed, and that's going to sway the people so that Bajpayee can win the election. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's about, but that's why he let him live. And then, yes, he gave him Master G's or Dongwela's thing because he knew how much Tyagi loved him. And that means the only way he would have gotten those amulets, those rosary, is if he's dead. Now he knows he's dead because they explain that Tyagi was going to kill Sanjeev, but he saw Sanjeev, and especially Sanjeev's wife, with these dogs and showing love. Cool. These dogs saved his life. And remember, that was Master G's very first test, right? Do dogs love you? If a man loves a dog, he's a good man. If a dog loves a man, he's a good man. And he saw the love that Sanjeev's wife gave these dogs, and that Sanjeev was also kind to these dogs. So he was conflicted. Like he said, 45 murders. He had never been conflicted before about killing somebody. This was the first time. So he was trying to seek advice from Master G, and of course he couldn't get a hold of Master G. So he would have known, because obviously at this point Master G's already dead. So that's why he didn't go forward with the execution. Now,
let me just cut you off real quick. I love that scene with the dog, and I did look it up. His name's Gwala. Maybe the Rajput is like a nickname. I'm not sure, but anyways, I love that scene with the dog because you see that look on Tiagi's face where he's kind of sitting back and he's looking on. You can tell, like, his acting is so phenomenal in this series. I wish we had more of him, but you can see the look on his face and the narration and the subtitles that we got where, just like you said, if a dog loves a man, he's got to be a good man. He sees that going on and he just calls off the hit right there. He just sits there. He doesn't even say a word, but I love his presence that he has. That was almost like a heartwarming moment for me where I kind of made me feel a little more for Tiagi, and almost to the point where I'm like, let's just let this guy go. Let's let him live. He's a good guy, even though he's killed 45 people. I just love that moment.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I love how you had the crow, the knife and fork for crow. I should have a knife and fork in here with me. I don't, but I'm gonna eat some crow. Remember when I kept saying, knife, yeah, you know, knife and fork.
Still have mine.
Matter of fact, point them at me and then put the plate in front of my face because I'm gonna be eating crow right now. There you go. I'm eating crow right now. I thought that Sarah was innocent. I thought not Sarah, the girl that was involved. That there was
Mary.
I thought Mary was innocent. She was not. She knew all along what she got involved for. Was she a killer? No, but she was just trying to be that person in there that was trying to be in the car in order to make it look normal. But she knew it was assassination attempt because you see them all after it's called off at the hotel room. Same thing for the character that died, Kabir M. Now I don't feel as bad for him. Yes, his part was basically just still in the car, but he also knew there was an assassination attempt going on or whatnot. And the same thing with Topi. Okay, he knew that there was an assassination attempt. So it's one of those situations where these guys all got set up themselves, but they all knew what they were there for. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, they gave each story a little bit of closure. I think the most tragic story was Mary, because later on, the guy that grew up with her, that truly loves her, he comes up and says, "Are you happy now? Are you happy? You know, no amount of money is worth this." And she says, I wanted the money so that I could get a sex change so that we could get married. Oh. And that just broke my heart. And then he told him she told him where the money was at, because she says she knows I'm done. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to jail for the rest of my life. You know, don't even wait for me. Here's where this money is that I got for this job, partial money, and gave it to him. And that was so heartbreaking. So you felt bad for Mary for sure.
Yeah, you're right. I had forgotten that moment before we started doing this review, and that was another heartbreaking moment. You totally care for Mary. And, you know, in the world that we have today, I don't want to get too political or anything like that, but I just want to say that actor that played Mary did a great job of becoming Mary, not becoming who he was before as the character, but as becoming Mary. Did a fantastic job. And it was interesting, her boyfriend, for lack of a better term that we'll call him, you know, the way he was walking by getting the water off the floor. That was such an interesting thing, such a random thought, but it was so interesting the way he was walking, but he was doing his job. And I don't know if it was metaphorical or not, but he was below her in his position from doing his job. And he was judging her in a way because he was frustrated. He was disappointed because he truly cared about her. I just thought it was very symbolic where she tells him, no, I'm toast. I was doing this for you because I love you, because I want to get married to you. You're absolutely right. That was fantastic. You have Chaudhary, who is he's so banged up. But then all of a sudden, his fortunes turn. Like, he goes through that test. He goes through that mental and physical test of seeing this case all the way through to the bitter end, sacrificing his life. He gets spared by Gwala. He also gets his job back from the police. You know, there's some political ties that, you know, pull some strings to give him his job back. But you see things start to turn the tide. He's able to see the full picture. He goes to Sanjeev, and like a boss with Sarah in the room, he just tells Sanjeev, like you had talked about, you know, I'm surprised you're not happy that your life was spared. he tells him all these stories, or these two stories. One was very long, which was awesome. One was a very short one. I thought the way he just went in there and the way he left, and even when he was telling his partner, he's like, you're going to do big and wonderful things. You really are. You're going to do things that I'm never going to be able to do. It seemed like finishing that case, the way he finished it, even though it probably wasn't the way he dreamed, for him, that's all he wanted. Can I do it? Can I put in the work, or am I just inept? Can I not do it? He found out for himself on his journey, which is such a phenomenal thing with this show, is that he realized that he has what it takes. He may just not get the opportunities, but having a job, providing for his wife and his son, being maybe a better father and a better husband, that's what he needs to focus his time and energy on. Not to mention, solving a case is a metaphor on life, where we feel like we can achieve something, but we get so many obstacles in the way where we have those doubting moments. I can't achieve this. I just can't do it. I'm not possible. I'm not able to do it. And then able to do it. It was a phenomenal thing for him in his journey. And then at the very end, with what happens with Tyagi, it totally threw me off a little bit, because I'm thinking Chaudhary is sympathetic with Tyagi, kind of understands in his own way who he is and what he's about, and how he's basically just a puppet, like you said. But then at the same time, he doesn't forget his police duties, where he's there with a gun just in case Tyagi tries to escape and do something. It kind of threw me off, because I thought he was just going to let him go and let, the system worry about it. But at the same time, I don't know if it's police duties. I'm not sure if it's because he wants to get rid of this 45 killer murderer. I'm not sure if it's because he feels like an obligation with Guala so that his family's protected. There's so many different motivations there, but it did throw me off a little bit when he points his gun right at Tyagi.
Okay. I interpreted that completely different. And, let us know which one of the opinions you guys agree with. I agree with you that he had an arc, right? And he grew. And he finally realized, I can do this job. Because he even sits down with the CBI police officer or inspector, and he tells him, did you give me this case because you didn't think I was no good because I couldn't solve it? And he tells him, yeah, I thought you were no good. I bargained for more than what I got. Nobody expected it. So they give him his job back. But I think he knows, because even when he goes to get his job back, his boss, his old that used to be he used to be his boss's commanding officer. Now his boss is his commanding officer. Tells him, don't act like you're surprised. I didn't want to give you your job back. You know what's going on. So there's politics involved. They're pulling the string, which is obviously Baj P. I think that basically that it was almost him learning how to play the game. And in a way, you look down on it, because he had to know that the minute he gave Tyagi that amulet, the prayer amulet, he was gonna know that Master G is dead, right? That Dalio is dead. So he knew he was gonna wild out, and I think that's why he was prepared with the gun, because it was almost like they sent him to close this loose end. Like to your point earlier, why did they let him live? Because he could get to Tyagi, and that's what they wanted, because Tyagi can still speak. The last thing you want is Tyagi speaking, and if he knows Master G is dead, or finds out later on Master G is dead, he's able to say, well, this guy shouldn't be a politician. Baj P is actually the one that sent me to do this job, okay? There's phone records that's going to prove that between them. Speaking of the phone, we never got any closure on the phone, even though we know what was on the phone, because they show how
we must have missed it. It must be just the pictures they took to prove that they were the assassins. We must have missed something, because
yeah, because they were on the phone. But I think he's finally learning how to play the game, which in a way is disappointing, because you're like, oh, you just did their bidding. You know what I mean? You gave him that gun, and
that's my point. That's my point. That's why it threw me for a loop. I thought he had kind of upper mental hand, and I don't blame him for playing the game, but I just did not see that happening.
So then you're right there. You're correct. But think about it. When you do things the right way, did he get ahead at all? No. Okay, he solved this case. He was doing things the right way, and he never got ahead. All of a sudden, I do things the wrong way, and I've got my job back. So he's playing the game, which is why I think it was also at the end so important that he was more focused on his partner. He's running through basically traffic, trying to get him there on time to take this test or whatnot, because he said, you're going to make it to the big leagues. I never made it to the big leagues. You're going to have an opportunity to affect real change. You're going to do things I've never had an opportunity. So he's realized that he's already reached his ceiling, his glass ceiling, so to speak. He can't go any further, and he had it because he in the past he wasn't willing to play the game, and now he has to be willing to play that game. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I absolutely believe that once he gave Tiagi the amulet, the prayer amulets, he knew Tiagi was going to kill himself, and if not, Tiagi was going to flip right there and try to kill other people. So he was ready with that gun, and now he's got a little notoriety. I don't blame him for it. You know who I do absolutely at the end got the worst, absolutely worst taste in my mouth for? Sanjeev. And I don't know if this was actually a show designed to attack media because they talk about fake news and all of that. But bro, first of all, you find out, you should be relieved that the ISI isn't after you, and he still is insisting the ISI is after him. After even knowing about the truth, he still goes on the news at night and talks about, you could not take me down, ISI, you could not take me down, assassins, this, and that, talking all this garbage, again, fake news. And then on top of that, he does have like a quote unquote moment of clarity where he's like, a dog basically saved my life, okay? And that's what Chaudhry tells him, a dog saved your life. A dog saved your life, okay? So he didn't even want the dogs. So he goes and apologizes to his wife and says, I'm sorry. And she goes, for what? But he can't even tell her for what. He just says, I just felt like saying it. I'm sorry. And then he goes back to being a scumbag. You know what I mean? So he left such a bad taste in my mouth. And again, filmmakers, directors have an opinion. They're not, I mean, it's so hard to be an objective film director unless you're doing like a documentary. And even documentaries, are usually slanted one way. I think that whoever came out the worst looking out here, it wasn't the killer with the 45 bodies, okay? It was two people. The politician who becomes a politician, Banch P, and Ken Savjeev, the reporter, the media. And man, I again, it was so unsatisfying to me that basically he was successful in the end. And if I had any complaint, it was that he should have had his up and comings, and he didn't at all.
I think one reason why I was fully expecting him to not give in and do their bidding is because I was almost expecting, and not consciously but subconsciously, the same ending as we get in Point Break with Keanu Reeves, where he arrests Patrick Swayze. He gives him to the cops, to the agents, and then he takes his badge and he throws it in the water, and he's like, I'm done. I'm not going to play your game. I'm going to get my man. I'm going to solve my case, and then I'm done. I kind of expected that. Like, I'm going to deliver the message, protect my family from Gwala, and then I'm just going to, whatever Tiagi does, that's not my problem. With Sanjeev, he's eventually going to get his very, very quick because he was looking at that title on the whiteboard where it said fake news. Sarah was saying, I can tell anybody at any time I want if you cause any troubles with me when I want to resign. And then also Chaudhry, I mean, there's too many opportunities where he knows that the clock is ticking and he knows he's not in love with his wife. But like you said, his wife saved his life. And so he can't even bring himself to say thank you for this or that. He's got too much pride. I think eventually, his time's going to run out, even though he cashed in all his chips to be able to get in the position where he was. And he's just so proud of himself. He tells them, imagine where we were just a month ago, and now look at where we're at. We're doing such a great job. We're on top of the world. The thing that also surprised me about the storyline is how quickly Sarah turned on him. She was such a big fan, and she to the point where she's ready to sleep with him, and he's married and all that kind of stuff, which is controversial. And then he shows her who he really is, and she's just turned off so quickly. I understand people are going to have their crushes. People are going to have they're going to be fans of certain things that maybe are not your role models. But I was just surprised with how fast she turned because she seemed a little more devious in the first few episodes. She ended up being a really decent character and having principles and all that kind of stuff. And, critics out there are going to say, journalists, they don't have any kind of redeeming qualities or morals or whatever. I don't feel that way. I was just kind of surprised. I think we could have delved in a little more into her character and got a little more out of her. She just seemed kind of one note at the beginning and then the opposite note at the end. I liked her a whole lot. I liked her spunk. I liked her attitude. I also would have liked to see a little more out of the Dolly character. It was nice that she was the reason that Sanjeev got saved, and it was nice that she's able to take care of the dog, and she's just loving that dog. Like it's like her baby. She so badly wanted a kid, so now she has these puppies. I would have liked to see a little more out of that. I would have liked to see her leave Sanjeev, but maybe that was just a personal wish. I was not happy with the way Tiagi went out, But other than that, this was still a very good finale. I was just saying it was just a little anticlimactic from what I was expecting it to be.
Right.
With the four horsemen, as you call them, they just, they're in jail now. I mean, that story's case closed or whatever.
Well,
Tiagi, whatever happened to him. And, they probably will get theirs in jail as well, so they can't talk. But how much do they really, really know? Who knows? So, I mean, it was a little anticlimactic, like I said earlier, but I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and just throw out my grade for this entire series. As a series, I really, really enjoyed this show. Every series you watch, you're not going to have every episode that's going to be out of control. You're not always going to have the greatest endings in these episodes, in these series. I'm going to give this a solid A. I thought it was really well done, really well made. The writing was good. The irony was good. The characters were strong. The acting was strong. There's not too much I can complain about this to not give it an A.
Yeah, I got to disagree with you there. Again, I kind of see your point with the Sarah aspect of it, right? Where, she could do it at any time. Here's the thing, too. I know this firsthand because I've met a lot of famous people, a lot of celebrities as a limo driver. Be careful meeting your heroes, bro, because more often than not, they will disappoint you. Okay. There's stories, and I know I've talked to you. We've had these private conversations where certain artists won't even allow you to look at them. Okay. Barbara Streisand, you can't even look at her in person. She's walked around with 30 people. It's ridiculous. And, I think it was that, she had this image of who Sanjeev was. And then when she found out he was really not that good of a person, and the reality is she fell in love with the reporter, this virtuistic freedom fighter, truth teller, and finds out that now that's not who he is. That's what she was in love with, not his looks, because he's an old man compared to her, you know what I mean? And she let him down that way. But again, I think that did they even ever show what Dilalu looks like? And I know that doesn't matter, but we never even got to see him. We just knew he was the head of that. I think that was a loose end. I think we also missed a loose end with the phone. We got no closure there. And to me, the bad guy can't. I love bad guys. Don't get me wrong. I love real cunning bad guys, so to speak. And in this show, Tiagi, like, oh man, that dude is crazy. I love his performance. But ultimately, there's got to be a good resolution. Tiagi was almost a victim in this at the very end, right? He was set up, and the real bad guys both won, which is the politician and the news anchor. I hated that, and maybe that's what the directors and the showrunners were going for, but it just left a bad taste in my mouth. Again, Tiagi's performance was amazing. Mary, the actor who plays Mary's performance, so vulnerable, amazing as well. I'm gonna give this a solid B. Okay, I was gonna go with a B minus, but
wow.
But bro, and maybe
you're loving this show,
bro. I got. Do you think that Tiagi deserved to die? And let's talk about how he died at the beginning. Again, the way that the show was created, right? They always give you nuggets at the beginning. What happened at the beginning of the episode? Out of nowhere, they're giving you this guy whose son is born, and he goes to a fortune teller, which is big in my culture in the Caribbean. The fortune teller is like, look, this child's future is blessed, but his horoscope is that of an animal, not of a person, and neither friend nor foe will kill him. What? Neither friend or foe will kill him. Well, we find out why, because that baby at the end, in the beginning of the episode, at the end turns out to be Tiagi, and he takes his own life. Nobody could kill Tiagi but Tiagi, basically. You know what I mean? But they made a guy with 45 bodies on him a sympathetic character. I would have much rather seen Sanjeev die, okay, because he's so manipulative, the way he treats his wife, the way he lies, fake news, all this other stuff, or the politician. And I just think that maybe that was the design of it. Let's be honest, who really likes politicians? They all lie, you know what I mean? We don't like politicians, we don't like the news media, so maybe that's what he's framed the show around. But man, the end resolution, like, I felt so bad for Mary.
But to me, it seems perfectly fitting. I don't really like it, but it seems perfectly fitting because he's a tragic character in the first place. When he kills those boys at the school, he does a horrendous act. You call it self-defense. You can call it, I got to them before they got to me, whatever. He does a horrible, deplorable act. He's on the run. He's on the lam. His PE teacher that he calls Master G at that time gets him in with Donuela and then he becomes his puppet. He lives. He says it when he's against the wall. Anything for you, Master G. Anything for you. That's his whole life. Once his life's over, he doesn't want to live anymore. His whole life was used by Donguela and Bajpayee's services and purposes to move on just to make them happy. And then once he realized with Dolly and the dog, and he realized, I don't want to just be that robot in this instance. He started to think but what kind of life is he going to live? 45 bodies. He's not going to live any kind of life. He's not going to go on and fall in love. I felt like it was fitting because he's a tragic character, but I don't know. I just feel like you had an A in your mind the entire time.
I did.
Last episode get to a B. Wow.
Maybe I think that, and here's my personal bias. Okay. Me too. I can't stand the media, bro, because they lie all the time. All right. I don't care what you watch, CNN, Fox News, take your pick. Okay. They all tell long tales. And politicians are worse. And here's the reality. Who comes out the winners in this? The media guy who's telling lies, fake news, and he knows it's fake news, and the politician. I guess art imitates real life is the best way I could put it. But it was just like, especially with this day and age, what we dealing with here in America, with the media and with politicians, maybe it's just one of those things where you don't want to be told the truth. And when you are, you're kind of just like, yes. The show was an A for me. I just hated the landing, the sticking at the end. Like, really? You let them win? No, they shouldn't win.
Again, think about the metaphor. Think about the realism in life right there, where we're going to get most of our information from our politicians and from the media. That's who we rely on, unless we become our own investigative journalists and we're breaking into places and sneaking in to try to get the true information about this or that. We rely on those two facets. Both those facets were working together, but also working against each other to better their platform, to better their positioning. And by lying to the people in many, many different ways, people were worshiping Bajpayee when he was corrupt. People were buying every word for Sanjeev because he was a flavor of the month and because he was telling them certain things, even though he was willingly lying about it. They are in the same class, but that's who, as a community, who we rely on. And it's just, like you said, it imitates life. It's just, I don't know, like it's not my favorite ending. Like I said, anticlimactic. It was not what I was expecting. I was expecting like a shoot 'em out kind of a thing. Like, let's just go all out, the Socias versus the Greasers. Let's just have a big old rumble in the jungle.
Right.
I was expecting that. I didn't get that. But the show still is what the show is,
No, I agree. Listen,
but I'm not going to argue your grade because it's your grade. I'm just a little surprised by it.
I think that much like many movies, and I'll give you an example. No Country for Old Men. I love that film. I love the film. They did not stick the ending. Okay. There's actually, if you go on YouTube and look it up, top 10 movies that were ruined by a horrible ending. You know what I mean? Where you just feel like you did not get any resolution, or the one where you just absolutely hated. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm at. I love the show. I love everything was going on. Like I said, I felt proud about myself. Oh, I figured it out. This is a conspiracy, whatever. And at the end, who I consider to be the worst people, the worst characters in this show win. It was just like, but you're right. It does. Art imitates real life. And you're right. We do get our information from the media and from politicians. And I think that that's why I think for the most part, they're so disliked, because we know so many of them lie. You know what I mean, dude? And I'm like, but I guess, do you believe that was, let me ask you one question. Let's have a conversation about this. Do you believe that was the director or the showrunner's intention to make the media and to make the politicians the antagonists? Like, even though you got a guy who has 45 bodies on him, he's just a puppet. He's not the real, bad guy. These guys are.
Yeah, it's the person pulling the strings. It's, it's an old scriptural adage where it says it's better that one man die than 500 people that follow him in the wrong way. And so you have, I do think it was very intentional that they had it in this way, that they had that message be that way. There's a lot of messages in this show that's very controversial. We've mentioned that before. The people that run this show, they were not worried at all about offending. They were telling their story. And I saw an article recently where Anurag Kashyap, the famous director that we love his films for, he said this may be the best series of all time. I mean, that's Anurag Kashyap. Now, he might be a producer. Who knows?
Right.
But he was claiming one of the best series of all time. I'm actually going to check to see if he's a producer. His name's not on at least Wikipedia, so who knows? But that's huge praise. And he knows himself doing some controversial films that it's about the story, not so much about the reaction. I mean, us doing these reviews has actually hurt our channel. We've lost subscribers on every single review we've done, but nonetheless, it's a really well-made show.
Right.
And
No,
so,
definitely.
anyways, we appreciate you guys watching our reviews. For those that have watched it, thank you so much. As always, we're not trying to offend anyone. We're not doing these just to hurt people that are offended by the show. We just think it's a very well-made show.
Definitely.
And we hope that you enjoy our commitment to sticking to something, even though it may not be very popular. We hope you come back tomorrow for another video. Thank you so much. And until next time.
We know all things.